Waiting for, yeah, didn't want to be right in mid-sentence when that came across. So welcome students that could join us and some of our folks. Just glad to see some students. It's lonely on the campus, so it's nice to see some faces. I always like to have these sessions just so we can all get a sense of what students are going through, what you're struggling with, how we can help. One of the things I wanted to talk to you all specifically about this time too is what your how it's been for you this semester, but how you're hoping for things to be next semester. We're going to start planning. Well, they're planning that semester right now and what we're going to be able to do. And so I'm curious how this has been. So can those of you that don't have your cameras on, I'm hoping you can click a reaction and give me a thumbs up or something like that. But how many of you are taking all of your classes online this semester? Give me a thumbs up if all your stuff, or raise your hand or whatever. I have a couple. Oh, getting a couple more. So everything is online. Okay. And that makes sense. I mean, some of you could be in health professions programs or something where you might be coming on campus for stuff. So how many of you would you have taken classes in person if that would have been an option for you this semester? Just give me a thumbs up if you would have preferred to have taken classes in person. Okay. So a couple more of you for that. Oh, and then oh, good. Yeah, in the chat. Use the chat too. So I got one there. Definitely preferred on campus. Okay. So, from your all's group, I'm sure it's been a little harder. So tell me, what are some of the struggles with taking classes all online? What's been, some of the hardest pieces of it? And you can unmute yourself. I mean, you can chat, you can unmute yourself, whichever. Anybody jump in?
I've got a point.
Okay.
All right. So the struggle I find is there's like some time that absent of a full lecture time. So instead of having that lecture time, there's more work that is done in place of that.
So are you taking a class that's fully online, doesn't have like a normal lecture time each week?
Well, even those, it seems like there's just a bit more because the lecture time is a bit shorter than it would be in person.
And you prefer having that lecture from the instructor, I'm guessing.
Definitely. I enjoyed it the most when it was in person lecture.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Who else?
I guess I would have to say, especially with health professions, it's a lot harder to have an online lecture and then an in-person lab, but then not go back to the lecture, I guess. So it's like it's definitely harder to focus, especially online, because like everything is all over the place, and lab is specifically for lab, so it's kind of all over the place, essentially.
So are your labs, since your labs are in person, you are just in smaller groups when you're coming on campus?
Yeah, we I think each lab was 11 people, so to say. But yeah, they were like checking temperatures and putting us in smaller groups as we were doing the lab, like six people per group, or 5 to 6 people per group.
But all of your all's lectures are online?
Yes.
Yeah. And I see in the chat, there's a couple of things about feedback, not getting as much feedback from professors. Do you think you don't get as much feedback in an online environment that you did when you took classes on site?
Definitely, because there's that delay of, I mean, I guess when you're in person, you can walk up to them and say, hey, and not have to worry about, I guess the whole thing where you have to wait, I think it's a 24-hour period for that email response back, or you have to, like, I don't know, it just feels like there's a bit more of a delay when it comes to online compared to in person.
Makes sense. And then Connor's saying that some classes were originally scheduled synchronous have switched partly to the students, but also, well, that's interesting. So if you have, I mean, if you signed up for a synchronous, but it's not meeting that way, maybe you could reach out to, I would give you Caroline Wood's name and her email and just let us know where that's happening. Because if a student signed up for a synchronous, then they should be getting a synchronous class, even if, an instructor is only teaching to 3 people. I mean, that's what you signed up for. Just like if you would have signed up for an in-person class, just because students didn't come to class, we wouldn't just cancel classes every week. So we just need to look into that a little bit more. So Connor, it would be, Caroline can post her email in the chat. And if you just, maybe just reach out to her and let us know who you're having trouble with that. We can look into that a little bit more too. Are you all, are you having technology issues? Are any of you struggling with that? Are you all okay with?
I've contacted my counselor and she's just like, she didn't even know that it was going on about the asynchronous stuff.
Who was your advisor?
Miss Lowe.
Oh, okay. So Andrea has it. So Caroline can maybe check with Andrea.
Just we'll find out for you, Connor.
Yeah, I don't, that's just, what we try to do with the synchronous part, and we are intending to be much more clear for the fall, for the spring semester, and have many more of those types of synchronous classes available for students. But that is how we scheduled it. So we expect that you will get a lecture every week in person, just like you would if you came onto campus. So.
And Connor, is it a math class?
I had 3 classes that did it.
3, okay, because I'd heard about a math that I passed on to the dean, but
yeah, I had my math class that I joined the first day, and I was sitting on the Zoom and I was like, nobody's on here. And then I texted one of my friends that was in the class and she was like, oh, he said that he told us this morning that he was just not going to do like classes, synchronous classes. He was just going to do asynchronous. And then my history teacher, she's gotten better, but it's been like towards the beginning of the semester, she would just like not show up to class, or she'd be like 15 minutes late. And then she would like in the class early. And then my IT teacher, I wasn't able to like get into my IT class for like 5 weeks. And then when I did get into his class, we had like 1 week of actually like, class with him. And then he was like, well, there's not a lot of people showing up. So this is all like, if you want to come here, you can. Sometimes I'll have class, sometimes I won't, I'll let you know. So it's been kind of all up in the air.
Okay, great. We'll make sure all that information gets to everybody who needs it.
Thank you.
So with a show of hands, I bet I can answer this one, but with a show of hands or thumbs up, how many of you are hoping there's going to be on-site classes in the spring? Yeah, I would have probably guessed that from your all's comments and some of those. So that's something we're working on right now. We're not going to be, it's not going to look like it normally looked. I mean, it's just, COVID is still here. We still have all those restrictions with how many students. I am interested in the healthcare too, to some degree, because you all are coming on campus. I mean, that's part of what you're doing anyway. But I do want to just get some feedback from you as folks are making those decisions for the spring semester. I will say, I am sure spring semester will be primarily online. But I think at this point, what we're doing is thinking about that transition for how to start having some more classes, when we start thinking about spring and then summer and then fall for the next year. And so hearing from you all does help. I know that I've heard from students both in all the forums that I've had, that it's harder. There was a comment in here about modifying study habits, and that it's just sometimes harder to be motivated with all your classes online, that it's easier to come and listen to that lecture and get the feedback that you need. And so I know that for many of our students that it's preferable to be able to do that. And so, that's something we want to hear and understand as we're balancing all the safety things we have to do and all the cleaning protocols and all of those things that you have to do, in addition to then certainly bringing students on campus. So what else? Is there anything that's gone really well that you've really liked? Anything about doing online that's been really positive that we want to make sure we keep doing in the future? Any good examples you have? Nothing in anyone's class that you thought was really good or that helped you? I think I heard one student was just talking about the way that the class was set up a little bit more. They had a lot more of their information ahead of time. That was nice. That was easy for them to be able to plan further ahead. That evidently when they were in class, it wasn't happening. They were getting 1 week at a time sort of put out there, but they liked being able to have their whole semester put out that they could follow. Yeah, and the ability to talk with other folks in your class, outside of class, to communicate has been better in this way. Yeah, you can create your own schedule with online classes, that's for sure. Whenever you want to be able to decide you're going to dedicate time to some of those is one. Yeah, I would agree. That does help you. And you've had that option before. I mean, before COVID hit, when we had a lot of online classes, you could choose those. It's just now that they're all in that format. Are you all doing any of the student activities or clubs? Chris said some of you were with PTK. Are you all able to do that at a distance?
So we're actually hosting all our meetings online and all that.
So you are meeting, but you're doing it via Zoom or some other technology?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's harder?
I mean, I miss seeing people, but you have to do what you have to do pretty much.
Yeah. One of the things we're actually finding with conferences, with meetings, is in some ways it's easier to get people together in a virtual space than even it was before. And this is not for everyone, but for some, it's been easier because, you always had to figure out when students were on campus to get them together. And because schedules were different, even for us with our employees, sometimes it's easier to actually get you don't have to travel, or, it's not a big deal. You just jump online. So, some of those things you may continue to do, even when you can get back in person, is have some, and maybe have even larger groups that can participate because they can join via phone or whatever. What else do you want to tell us about this crazy time, as far as what about getting help, like with financial aid or help with through your advisor? Has that been easier, harder, about the same? Anybody had been reaching out to anyone?
I would say like getting into contact with my advisor and just like, and people like that is a lot easier because I mean, they have a more flexible schedule. But I think that's about it. They definitely work around us and they work with us a lot easier. So I think that's a really nice thing.
That's good to hear.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yep.
Kind of in addition to that. So when we as a college communicate with you, so if we send out emails telling you how the classes will look or what's going on, is it pretty easy to understand? Or do you find yourself going, I don't really get what they're trying to say?
I think at first it was kind of like what is this? It was confusing, definitely. And then I think as soon as we kept going with the classes, it got a little easier to understand. I would say that there's definitely been moments of confusion still, but we can still work around those, I think.
We're hoping that we're getting better at it. That's our goal, is that when you first see it, you'll understand it. So that we don't want to confuse you. So that's on us, Kelsey.
I can jump in, Caroline, if you want additional feedback. I have an English class that starts this Friday, and one of my students emailed me. It says online for the mode of instruction, but then it has the day and the time that we're meeting. So he was really confused. So I just had to say it is online. It's online, but we're synchronously meeting at 9:30 in the morning. And then here's the Zoom link, and I'll see you there. So I think that also was a little confusing for students because they're thinking, well, I signed up to meet on Fridays, but it says it's online. So what's happening? Yeah.
And hopefully, I'll tell you our 3 formats this spring are online, online live, and hybrid. This online live, which has a set meeting time, does that make more sense than what we did in the fall? Yeah, we were noticing the confusion pretty quickly for fall.
Yeah, spring. Oh, goodness. Well, we start registering for spring and fall in March. I mean, is when our normal time is. And so all those classes were on the schedule and they had to sort of be converted. And you all don't need all these details, but if you have students enrolled and you change the way it's offered, you have to unenroll everybody and create a new section and re-enroll everyone. And so I think it was just an attempt to make it work the best you could make it work with class notes, which just didn't end up working. Chances are we should have probably unenrolled and re-enrolled, which hindsight's always 2020 once you start hearing from students on what's working or not working. But we definitely, Caroline and folks, have heard you all talk about how confused, people were. And now it's going to be much better. The system as a whole actually has started creating some new, are going to have some new categories for ways you can schedule classes too, because it wasn't just us. We weren't set up really, I guess, really to deal with a pandemic when you want to do a online, but you also want online synchronous. We just had this online category. So we're going to do better with that one. That's for sure. Okay, and Vicki, you had an online with your advisor, a session with your advisor, which is good. I mean, some of that stuff, honestly, I think about, now I realize this was a long time ago, but even when I won't say when I was in college, but even when I was a faculty member and I had students, your options were, my advisees, the option was they came to my office and met with me, or they called me and we did something over the phone. I'm so grateful to have some technology now that you can meet, with students at a distance whenever it works for the student. They don't have to make a drive in to campus. You don't have to just talk on the phone. You can, but otherwise you can at least know who they are if you pass them somewhere on the street or something. So I think it's great to be able to do that. I think we'll keep doing that probably well beyond the pandemic. It'll be a nice addition that we can have for students to meet that way. Anything else you wish? Well, let me ask you this. Are any of you with a thumbs up, are any of you graduating this year, this spring? Or I guess fall or spring?
I am graduating this spring.
All right, so we have a graduate.
Woohoo, Elliot.
I know. Yeah. I will tell you the worst is, I mean, the worst thing ever was having to make a call about commencement last year. And I'm already worried about what's going to happen for commencement this year. So we're working on plans for that. A way to do something, have some way to do something for commencement. I mean, we'll still probably have a virtual ceremony just so that we can have all the stuff we would normally have that you probably won't be able to do in a really large group, but we're trying to figure out sort of a hybrid approach too, to do something for students so they can walk across the stage or have some type of an event. So more to come on that one, but that's one of those that worries me because that's a big, I mean, that's a momentous occasion in a student's life. And you know, we did all did what we had to do this past spring, but we're going to see about something, you know, a little hybrid approach for this year, hopefully. Assuming things, you know, get better. That's what we're all assuming things will get better with the pandemic as time goes on. So as long as that's the case, hopefully we can have a plan for some type of an occasion. What else? Anything else that you need us to know? Some folks sent in questions, and it was a lot about, and I don't know if it was you all or not, but a whole lot of it was about going back and e-learning. The one question was, and I'll have to send this to someone, so if you want to tell me if it was one of you, but it had, can you explain the process of retaking an online class within this year and the upcoming spring semester, specifically for those in the nursing program? So that I would have to get someone in the nursing program probably to respond, or the dean over that area. So I don't want to give anybody the wrong information about those accredited programs. Some of the same things you all have been saying were in there about the interactions. The library, there was a question, Caroline, about the library being open in Warrenton.
So the open area is, the general area is not open because there's just can't control the space, so we can't keep it safe. So if people need books, it is open. They can take out a book or take out resources, and the librarians will pull them from the stacks for them. So they're open and available to do that. And we do have the computer classrooms if you need to access computers. So the computers are in both Fauquier and Middletown and Luray are serving as the same as those library computers would serve. And then the librarians are on staff and available to help pull books from the stack or help with any technological issues. You can either do it in person, the librarians are there, or via the library chat. The library chat is 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, our buildings are open. You know, we are here if you need to use a computer. There's options for students to use computers. They, you know, use Wi-Fi. We do have to limit some where you don't have, 100 people gather in a certain space. We just, just because of all the restrictions, we just aren't able to do that. But there are, we're here to help you if you need help, or there's some spaces that you can use when you're on campus, certainly.
I had a question.
Sure.
Is there any chance at all about going back in person?
Like for all classes or just some?
Any?
Well, we do have some classes that are meeting in person, but it is mostly the hands-on classes. We have a couple, we have a couple of science classes that it's a challenge to do labs at a distance. So we do have some that are meeting in person, but for the vast majority, you are right, for the vast majority, so Englishes and histories and all of those, they are meeting online. So let me ask you all, if you were the president of Lord Fairfax Community College and you were scheduling spring semester, what would you want it to look like? So Connor, I'll ask you, what would you want it to look like?
I'd
How would
say,
you have it set up?
I'd say probably like give an option to people, like if you want to come in person, you can, and if you don't, you can be online. Just because I know like some people really need to be in the actual class. Like personally, like I really need to be like in the class, like with the teacher. So like if I don't understand something, I can ask her right there in the moment and she's not, rushed. Cause I know like on the Zooms, they have like their hour or whatever that they have to teach and they have to get all their material done. And like I don't want to just, ask my question and take up more time in the class so the teacher doesn't teach all the stuff she needs to. So I think just like giving the option to people.
Well, and I would encourage you, if you have a question during a Zoom session, just put it in the chat. Just ask your question or raise your hand. I mean, it's the same as if you were in person and you had a question. I mean, ultimately, they're going to get their material covered, but the most important thing is you're there learning. It's, it's important for the faculty member, but you really are the whole reason that class exists is to make sure you're learning the material. And so if you have a question, please don't feel bad about that. Just put it in the chat, raise your hand and ask your question, even if it takes class a little bit longer. Don't ever feel bad about that. Yeah, so, when we're on campus, we're wearing masks. We have the requirements, of course, for all the distancing in the classrooms. Some schools are using more outdoor space during times to be able to have some classes. So we'll take your feedback as we're talking about classes. There will not be, it won't be normal, certainly in the spring. We won't be going back to all of our classes. There's just no way actually to do it based on the cleaning you have to do and the distancing you have to do. But we'll take that back out, meet with certainly Caroline as part of the academic leadership, and we'll take it back as feedback. I know that you're not the only student who feels that way. I mean, I know we hear that from students, that they just want to be able to sit in a classroom with their teacher there. We just have to figure out how to do that safely, to make sure that everyone's okay in that environment. Anybody else?
I've got a question.
Okay.
Thing. It's a bit of a two-parter, but in like the beginning, it goes by the two emails that I received yesterday and today. So yesterday I received that one email that reported that Middletown campus had gotten a bit of the corona. And then I was wondering, well, this is the first section of it. I was wondering how that will affect the campus classes and events that are happening like currently.
Yeah, so we send out a notice. Part of our return to campus plan is how we would communicate whenever there had been a positive test of someone on campus. And so students will receive those, our employees receive those. Honestly, we've had very few cases overall, and most of them have been not in a large setting, but one individual that was on campus maybe came in contact with one person or something like that. But we notify for all of those occasions. We also then go through a process where we do deep cleaning and we do all that notification that we needed to do as well. We have not had any occasions where we've had to close or cancel events. I think we probably, Caroline can correct me, we may have had a class that went virtual. One of them I think was in our workforce area that maybe went virtual, but it had more to do with the instructor who was possibly exposed at one point. And then we've had some students that had to quarantine because they came in contact with someone else who tested positive. But in terms of shutting down the college or shutting down spaces, we thankfully haven't had to do that yet.
And one of the things we actually talked about at a meeting the other day, and Craig can jump in, no, at no time has anybody given COVID to someone else. So it hasn't been, it's, people have come on campus with it. And if everybody is doing what they are required to do, it's not considered by the health department to be an exposure. So everybody is still safe if everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Right. So if
Right.
you're wearing your masks and everybody's staying at least 6 feet apart when they've been on campus, then they're not generally considered a contact then at that point. They also ask if you've been in contact more than 15 minutes with someone. And so we haven't had anything like that, thankfully. Now, we don't have a lot on campus. I will say, you know, where you are having more folks on campus and some of the programs, and honestly, more of it has to do with how you're exposed in the community is what we're hearing from the health department. So if you have a family member, I'll give you an example. I guess they care if I say this, but my sister-in-law is an ER nurse. And so a couple of weeks ago, she tested positive for COVID. So my brother was quarantined for 14 days. So he, you know, he wouldn't have probably had any issue at his workplace or wherever, but because he lives with an ER nurse who had been exposed, if he would have gone to work, you know, before he knew she was positive, you know, then he could have had it not known. But I think most of it's coming from that environment, from where it's a family member or a friend or someone you're in contact with outside of school. We haven't had it on campus to be an issue. Which is
All
good.
right. And then I have the second part of that,
Okay.
which was so today I don't need to. Today I received an email about that all in-person activities were to be canceled, including tailgates and all that. And I know the big one, the sad one of that was the big I think it was Once Upon a Time at Fauquier campus that everyone was really hyped about. And I was just wondering how the cancellation of events will affect hybrid classes currently and for the future in the spring semester.
Yeah, Caroline or Chris, I'll leave that one to you. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
So it was a decision that a group of us made that are on the COVID team, and it was just a matter of, we're seeing a surge in cases in the region. And we decided that it was really best, especially as we go into flu season with the surge in cases, to dial back. We had started to, so we had a tailgate at Middletown last week, and we had the tailgate at Fauquier a couple of weeks ago, and nothing happened. This is not the reason. It's just, we're seeing a surge in cases, and we want to be sure that we can keep going on campus, and it's really a preventative measure. It's not because anything terrible has happened. We're just trying to protect everyone.
So would there possibly be a change for spring semester hybrid, or at the moment that's still up in the air, I'm guessing, with where we are right now with Corona?
When you say hybrid, are you asking about hybrid classes, or are you talking about the more of the activity stuff that's happening in person?
I meant like more of the in-person, like the in-person part of hybrid or in-person classes, how those will be affected now that this action has been taking place against the events. Would we see something where it would be less in-person classes in the spring semester than this year?
Well, okay, so when you say this year, so if you're talking about, there won't be less than we have this fall. I don't think there's any plan for us to have less in person, because we just don't have that many in person at this point. So not less than now. If it's less than last spring, yes, it'll be less than last spring started. But I don't think, I wouldn't put those two together, like what happened with an event. Doesn't have as much impact on how we're planning classes, I wouldn't say, because, you know, we love these student events. you know, and the tailgates and the movies and a lot of things, but if we were going to err on the side of not having something, we'll do that in an effort to keep students safe to have classes. You know, that's sort of our priority, I think, is to get you on campus for this services you need and then for classes. And if we can do the student activity stuff, we'll certainly do that because it's valuable. But they don't equate to one another, I don't think. If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I follow up on my question about us going back to in-person classes in the spring. When will that decision be made?
Well, let me tell you, we are not going back. I can tell you for sure, we aren't going back to all in-person classes. I mean, that won't even be close to happening. They're working on the schedule now in terms of which things will be able to be held in some fashion in person. It will not be very many classes. Caroline and them and the deans are working on that schedule. We will look a lot like we look right now in the spring, with some exceptions probably. I know there are some science classes, there are some other classes that are looking into it. But what I will do is go back and just talk with our VP about the feedback from you all, about whether there's any opportunities to have some additional options that are available, that is a desire that I'm hearing from some of our students, to be able to have a few options. You know, your dilemma is it might not be, even if we could do that, let's say you could have a few classes that are offered online, it may not be the class you need. You know what I mean? It might not be the exact one that's going to fit in your program. So it won't be that there is a wide range of classes on site for spring. But we do want to try to start figuring out how to get that movement back, assuming that the COVID crisis is going to get better throughout the spring semester and into the summer. That's one thing we have our continuity of operations team meeting on, to start talking about that, because we have to start in January planning summer and fall, basically. And so that's a big discussion that we do need to have.
And I can give you a little
schedule, Caroline.
Yeah, so the schedule actually is live today. And so philosophically, this is how the deans and the VP went about doing it. You're not going to see any of those face-to-face classes, those gen ed classes. It's still going to be those healthcare. And what the thinking is if it all of a sudden, if something miraculous did happen, if a vaccine came out, they could roll it out, which we know they can't. But by January, we could add classes, or if it, if something different happened, we could add classes. And we could also, throughout the spring, for example, we run multiple sessions. We run 7-week 1 session, 7-week 2 sessions. If it's looking really good in February and early March, we could add 7-week sessions that were more hybrid and face-to-face. So really what we're doing is looking at real-time scheduling for anything that's hybrid and face-to-face. Otherwise, the assumption is it's going to be online, either online synchronous or online asynchronous.
So you're saying that more will be online. So will more be synchronous or more be asynchronous?
So what we noticed from scheduling is that people wanted more asynchronous. So there'll be more asynchronous available, but there'll be plenty of synchronous available as well. And what I would do is check in with Andrea and see, you can register for spring in the next couple of, we're starting after a week from today. So you'll be able to register, and then you can get in any of the classes you want. We usually don't see that huge surge where we run out of space until December.
Okay, so when I signed up for my math class, I asked Miss Lowe, I said, I struggle in math, and I said, I really need to have a synchronous class. And she said, okay, then, this Dyke guy is great. He's a good teacher, and he's going to be synchronous. So I signed up for that class. And I didn't know, and then a week before class or whatever, he sent out an email saying that we were going to be asynchronous what is the plan for if, teachers do that again? Is there any, plan?
That shouldn't happen. So probably I'll work with a VP to make sure we communicate with faculty that if they're synchronous, they have to stay synchronous.
Okay,
Yeah. And if you find that, go right back to your advisor and we'll figure something out for you. Don't feel like you have to stay unhappy in a format that you don't like.
No, don't. We can get you moved to a different class if something happens. But if we've advertised it as a synchronous, we'll work with the deans and the VP to ensure it stays synchronous. That's our commitment.
right. 'Cause, like, I joined the math class, but it was a later math class. Like all the other classes started like 2 or 3 weeks before that, and then my class started. So when I told Miss Lowe about it, she was like, "Oh," she's like, "I don't see any other teachers that were available for asynchronous or for synchronous at that time."
Well, that's good to know. Like when we're scheduling, I can pass that along to folks scheduling that we really need to do both in both sessions.
Okay, anything else?
I have something to say. During test, are they gonna find a better format for testing? Because I noticed with some of my classes, well, one of them particularly, um, when you answer something, it marks you wrong, and the teachers have to correct it again. And she tried a different format, which was very awkward. Is the testing center gonna be open for everyone in spring? Maybe, possibly.
Is this
Probably
a,
not. That sounds like a Canvas issue, doesn't it, Kim?
yeah, or a technology, were they having you use like a software? This is not like a lockdown browser issue, or was this just directly in Canvas when you were taking a test?
Just Canvas overall, and just like the time limit that they offer, sometimes it depends. Since I'm a slow test taker, it requires me to kind of make an educated guess on some of them, which if I was in a testing center, I would have my own time pace and whatever, and I'm able to, actually take a test at my own pace. Whereas if it's online, with the restriction of you don't know if your student is cheating, it's time limited. And
Gotcha.
Hey, Martha, shoot me an email afterwards. We'll see. Let me so I can work with you. Okay.
all right, thank you.
You're
Yep.
welcome.
I think we could figure that one out just to see if we could help you with, if it's a time constraint issue and you're feeling like you have to rush through it. I think that's something Caroline can work with your instructors we can try to figure that one out. About marking it wrong, yeah, that's something that maybe, was just an error as far as the way the test was set up or something like that. And I would reach out to your instructor if you think that anything was marked incorrect that should have been correct for that one. All right, folks, anything? I appreciate you all sharing all of that. And I do hear loud and clear from you that, in person is preferable for a lot. And I'm not surprised by that. So make sure Caroline and folks have heard that. And as we start planning for how we can get more on campus classes, then I think that'll be good for all of you all. And it'll be good for us to figure out how to start getting that back, having a wider range. But check the schedule. There are many, many, many more synchronous options that are more clearly marked for you to be able to find those in the schedule. All right. Well, if you think of anything else, you can always shoot me an email. You can shoot Caroline one. Chris set this up. You can shoot Chris one. Just let us know how we can help you. If you have friends that are struggling with anything, classmates that seem lost with something, please tell them to reach out. One of the things we want to be able to do is help you all get through this semester, through this period of time. So let us know how we can help you. Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for taking time today. I appreciate it very much. It's nice to see at least some faces.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.